and I am particularly pleased that you are here. I've been teaching the logical thinking process actively throughout the world for the last 20 years, and this is the very first time that we have tried to put together an alumni session that is intended to bring back people who have been through the training to find out what they've done, to perhaps give a little bit more supplementary information that might be useful for the future, and to give a refresher in some of the tools that we use. I'm going to just review briefly our agenda for the next 2 days. You're free to ask me any questions at any time. I want this to be informal. This is not intended to be all that structured. What we will do is, if our discussion takes us in an intriguing direction, we'll go in that direction, and we may amend the agenda as necessary. So I don't want you to consider this to be a formal agenda. This is completely informal. What I'd like to do is, so that everybody gets to know each other a little bit, to start with some mutual introductions. And I've got a little outline here that might, I know it's hard to see, the marker was fading. I'll step out of the way, but I'd like for you to go through your name, where you're from, the type of work that you do, and for those of you that did get training in the LTP, the logical thinking process, please tell us when and where and why you went to it to begin with. And then I would like to hear your expectations for this session. And finally, what do you think you might like to have more of in the future? We're definitely interested in feedback. So we'll take whatever time is necessary to go through that. We are not in a hurry here. Once we do that, I would like to move from there into what I refer to as war stories. I would like to hear from you, to the extent that you can and are willing to share your war stories. Those of you who've been through the course know that I typically, in the LTP, I tell war stories that can sometimes be fairly extensive as to where it's been applied and what the results have been. I would like to hear from you what you have been able to do and what sort of, shall we say, obstacles or frustrations you have experienced, as well as what successes you've been able to realize. So we'll try sharing some of those things. I'm sure by the time we get to the end of that, it's going to be time for a break, if not before then. Then what I propose to do in the remaining time of the day is I have 2 presentations that I am going to show you. One is called The Challenge of System Complexity, and the other is called The More Things Change, the More They Stay the Same. The key element in the area of the thinking process that I decided probably could stand some emphasis based on my experience with other folks is a little review of building current reality trees. This is the part of the thinking process that most people have more difficulty with than any of the other parts. And I have developed, with the aid of my friend Hamid, I have developed an approach that supplements what I used to teach in the thinking process course. Those of you who've been through it before have not seen this. So this is going to be new material for you that I am hoping will help you to get your thinking processes, your current reality trees, perhaps in better shape. And the way I decided to work this out is I'm going to do a little refresher introduction presentation toward the end of the day today. It's going to include the discussion of this slightly modified approach to constructing the trees. And then I'm going to introduce the exercise that we are all going to do tomorrow that will apply what I'm talking about in the refresher introduction. That exercise is a very complex story, and it is the story of the Challenger disaster in 1986, these 30 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. What we're going to do is I have a Harvard Business School case study that you all have copies of in your handouts. This is probably the most concise, boiled down explanation and description of what happened to cause that accident that I have ever seen, and it was based on research from the Rogers Commission Blue Ribbon report on the accident, which took them 2.5 years to put together. That report is about that thick. The summary of that here in the Harvard Business School case is much more readable, and it is only about 13 pages long, the text. The accompanying graphs and supporting exhibits that go with it add another 20-some pages. But by the time we review that, you will have a thorough understanding of the situation. We will go over that case all the way this afternoon, and we'll discuss it in detail. And then that will be the end of today. Tomorrow morning when we come in, we will jointly convene in the hall, in the room across the hall, where we will actually construct a current reality tree using this new approach that I have to building the connections. And it will describe in detail so that anybody who was not a part of the tree construction can actually look at it, follow it from bottom to top, and understand exactly why and how the Challenger blew up and 7 people were killed. So we will do that tomorrow. Now, typically in the thinking process course, you all know that we allow you to go and struggle with your own current reality trees after you've been briefed on the process. That's not what we're going to do tomorrow. What we're going to do is I'm going to facilitate and lead the construction of the trees. You're going to follow along in the checklist, and I will ask pointed questions here and there. You will provide some answers based on your knowledge and understanding of what you've read in the case and your understanding of the procedures for this new approach, which are also in the handout as well. There's a checklist in there that will allow you to follow through and get some exercise in using this new approach. As I said, this is all supposed to be all about you and what's of value to you.